Go ahead.
Good morning. Welcome everybody to the Wright County Board of Commissioners April 6th board meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, good morning everybody. Alrighty. Minutes from our county board meeting of March 23rd. Does anybody have any changes or suggestions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I will move the minutes, Mr. Chair.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Vetch. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Review and approval of the agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like to add?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Ketchmark?
just one item that came up a week ago, and I talked with Mr. Kelly on Friday, but regarding the number of people that are allowed in the boardroom for a board meeting versus a planning commission meeting, it's been brought up by the constituents, and we didn't really get it resolved last Friday per se, so we could have that for discussion later in the agenda.
All right, for items for consideration, item C, discussion on planning commission meetings.
Items for consideration C.
Yep. Is there anything else anybody needs to add? All right, hearing none, I would accept a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve the agenda as written with that addition.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Wetter, second by Commissioner Vetch. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like removed for further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Ketchmark.
just two things under disbursement, just for clarification on some, couple things I checked into on that.
And Ms.
Under number 5, letter B,
B5?
B5,
right,
knowledge warrants issues between March 17th and March 30th.
correct.
Okay? Is there any other?
Chair, yes, I'd like to pull A1 and G1.
I'm sorry, A1?
A1 and G1. I'm sorry, I'll speak up more. Like I says, I'm not used to this darn mask. Too many days without wearing one.
A1 and G1?
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move the consent agenda with those 2 items removed.
3 items.
I'm sorry, 3 items, yes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Let's start out with A1.
Oh, okay. I guess I was looking at some of these numbers, and I was wondering whether that's in addition to what was approved for the building already, or is this an additional expenses? Because this was almost $1 million more.
Alan's coming to talk to it.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
The items within this are in the budget. They're just not a part of the original contracts. So when we did the construction of the project, we have prime contracts directly with all the contractors. These are changes associated, but within contingencies or within the approved budget of the project. So they're not over and above what's approved as a project budget. but they are over and above the original contracts. With the exception of the security card access items, we didn't originally have a contract for that. That's one of those items that we have placeholders in place and we have a budget line item for, but we don't have an original contract that we went out to bid with when we constructed the building. Those are items that are added in within that construction line item of the budget, but they're not change orders per se, I guess. They're
Okay.
contracted items at this point.
Okay, just was curious, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Vetch?
just for just kind of a little bit of backside to it, because a lot of the card access pieces, we were still kind of in the figuring out which direction we wanted to go at that point, so that's the reason we didn't actually put it as part of the bid packages and why we just kind of left a blanketed dollar amount in there, so. But good question, though.
Yeah, I just was,
Otherwise, it does look like a change order of like $1 million.
yeah, that's why I kind of went, whoa, almost $1 million, and.
And that's not all access cards was not $1 million project. Please understand that, public.
All right,
But thank you.
Yep.
item B5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just looking under the weekly disbursements that we get sent, I was looking through it and found one under description. It was Beaudry propane, and all of the description said was propane delivery heat. So I did some checking and found that actually $2,260.35 went to the compost facility for propane. So just a little clarification, because there wasn't much of a description on that line item. And then the next one was on page 5, there was professional services for the dental clinic, Flaherty and Hood, for $3,732.50. And I looked at the update from Lee Kelly on Friday about updates on the dental clinic project, and I didn't see anything related to Flaherty, Hood, and service and whatever they were doing, so I was just wondering if the board knew what that was for, that expense related to that.
Commissioner Vetch?
Flaherty and Hood has been doing all the legal documentation in order for us and all the legal contracting for us to be able to accept the bonding money from the state. There's a lot of contracting and a lot of language that has to be drafted up, and basically we have to make sure that what we are doing on the back end here is compliant with the state. So their attorneys at Flaherty and Hood are doing all the legal legwork for that to make sure that we're compliant to accept the funds.
Okay,
So it's all legal fees.
okay, thank you.
Imagine that.
That's all I had from the disbursement item that I pulled, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Wetter, item G1.
Yes, and this is, I see Tracy's here, so I had some questions on the feedlot officer's annual report. First of all, is this something that the state issues that you have to fill out, or is it a county form, or what?
I haven't been to a meeting since you guys did COVID. Is this where you want me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tracy Janakula. I'm the Wright County Feedlot Program Administrator. So, Commissioner Wetter, thank you, Commissioner Delighten, for letting me speak. So the annual report is required to be filed each year, and it's part of the agreement we have with the state as a delegated county to run the feedlot program.
Okay,
And so these are the numbers of kind of what I did for the year in a nutshell. Does not cover all the nuances of my job, but the number part.
okay, could you kind of go through this and explain it a little bit, because, and if it's all right with you, I may break in and ask you a particular question about it, if
Sure,
that's
fine.
okay?
So at the top of it is the registration numbers. At the state level, feedlots that have 10 or more animal units within shoreland or 50 or more animal units outside shoreland have to be registered. So currently, we are being funded for 245 feedlots. There's well over 600 in the county. There's lots in that 10 to 50 outside shoreland, and lots more below 10 animal units. A lot of hobbies. Water quality standpoint, I am in charge of all of them. but I only get funded for 245.
Now, is that through the MPCA then that you get funded, or do you know which
It's
channel?
within, the state legislature sets our budget,
Okay,
2.5 some million for the whole state. The delegated program for the 50 counties that do it.
Excuse me, Tracy.
Yes,
You said 245?
yes.
248 is what I have here.
Yeah, so that's, yeah, okay, so the 248 is funded. The two different numbers is how many, as of the day I did this, are registered in each category, how many they have on record from the previous year, and then we only update every 4 years, and so the 248 is what we get paid. So yes, I misspoke. The three different numbers is around about those.
So
So,
there's 3 less now than there was? Is that my understanding then?
actually, there'd be a couple more. The 251 is current as of when I did this in February.
Oh, okay.
I update on an ongoing basis, but the funding, they don't lock in the numbers every single year. We're trying to update that as they've come along with a new database. Try and get it so that January 1 of each year, the numbers are a rolling number for funding. Right now, it's every 4 years.
Okay.
That part of it's really complicated.
Hard to believe with the state government that it'd be complicated.
And so the number of sites that have to be inspected is 7% or more. Last year, I did a little more than 7%. It was very challenging because I really didn't do anything until like October. You know, tried to minimize my exposure to the public at large. So that was, it was hard to get in everything when they're in the middle of harvest and then it snows, and so, but that, it's a minimum. In order to get the funding, you have to do a minimum. So that's where those numbers come from.
Tracy? So now I understand the county can be more strict. Is the county stricter with their ordinances than what the state requires? Or not? It's about equal?
Not really. There's more specifics that the county gets into. The state regulates setbacks to water, most part.
Okay.
We have the property line setbacks, the neighbor setbacks, the density of animals per acre, size of structures, that kind of stuff is all county-based. Really, the state is, they don't want you too close to water.
Okay, so
They make
this,
sure where the manure is spread.
so this report is based on still the state, not?
Mostly the state part of
Okay,
it, correct.
all right.
Yeah. So the inspection reporting part breaks it down into the size categories. 2 feedlots that were 10 to 49 that had shoreland. Both of those were lakes. 50 to 299 animal units was 15 sites. And then there was one site that was 300 or more, and they were doing construction. The desktop N&P records inspection, that's nitrogen and phosphorus for the manure application. So on the larger sites, they must keep records. And I did an evaluation of one of the farms that fit that category, of which there's only 24, and they passed, but that, I get credit for that specific, going through that inch of paperwork.
So, you know, it says like inspection performance credits, what?
It's like an incentive, depending on how many total points all the 50 counties rack up over the year. There's like $50,000 that's dispersed based on how many credits you get, which is even more complicated than the
Oh, okay.
grant money.
Okay.
But, so the base grant is basically 248, it's about $100 a feedlot. The performance credit, it depends on what everybody else in the whole state does as to how many dollars you're going to get. But it's an incentive to do the more challenging stuff.
And then above there, it was the sites inspected that were non-compliant. What are the consequences if they're non-compliant? Do you shut them down or?
Not usually. It depends on the site. Some of the smaller ones, if they're able to fix it within the growing season, then I just work with them and soil and water and change some fences or add some grass or redirect the water. Otherwise, they will get a permit. And then usually they'll go through Soil and Water, Natural Resources Conservation Service to get funding, to help them fix. And that takes a couple years usually.
Okay, I don't really have any more questions. I don't know if you want to explain further or not, but it's up to you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Vetch?
Commissioner Wetter, I thank you for pulling this one. It's been 4 years. I think it was 4 years ago we used to do, I think it was like every 4 years we would do this actually in a presentation piece. I think because it's been a while. Because I remember going through this and you actually kind of giving us what constitutes a feedlot. Because there's a lot of different formulas, whether it's chickens, cows,
Or dogs.
or whatever it is to be able to get to a feedlot, and then kind of talking about how that money comes in and where that money goes to versus your time for compliance checks to it and other documentation pieces that go along with it. I guess I think for in the future maybe at a workshop we can always use this as an item for education as well as when it comes up for renewal again. I think that would be a good place to go with it.
Well, I just thought before we sign our name to it,
Well,
I'd like to
absolutely.
know what I'm signing, so.
Did
Or
you say
approving.
dogs or ducks?
Dogs.
Yeah, dogs don't count.
I didn't think so.
Well, at one time, Commissioner Burrell mentioned about the dogs in the doghouse at
No, that was chickens.
There was chickens in a doghouse, yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Which
Yeah,
would
chickens
make
in a
the
doghouse.
chickens
It wasn't
doghouse
dogs
a
in a
feedlot.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
One too many animals.
It was a doghouse anyways.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Ketchmark.
I just want to thank Tracy for the job that you do, because you have a thankless job. It's not like the Schwann's driver driving into a yard where people are running toward you. And when you walk through the planning commission office and you see she's probably the only cubicle in Wright County that's got a pair of rubber galoshes next to her cubicle. So she gets in deep sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you for what you do and for explaining, and I may have a sidebar conversation with you at some point also, but this was a very good start. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Any other questions?
And thank you, Tracy. I appreciate explanations.
All right. Thank you.
Yep, thanks,
Okay.
Tracy.
So everybody's,
We're gonna make a motion to approve
yep.
I'll
those-
make a motion to
those-
approve the items on the consent agenda that were pulled.
And I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. On to our timed agendas. We're a little past 9:02, Virgil. Hopefully,
That's okay, I'm hanging in here.
what do you got for us
Oh.
today?
Good morning, Good morning, Mr. Chair and Board of Commissioners. Today I have one highway item for your consideration. It's to approve agreement number 20-58 with the City of Delano for the Tiger Drive and Highway 30 mini roundabout construction that'll take place later this year. The City of Delano approved the agreement at their March 16th meeting.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agreement number 20-58 with the City of Delano for the mini roundabout.
I will second that.
motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any other discussions?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Ketchmark?
And Virgil and I talked a little bit about this roundabout, but for the future, my understanding is if this type was proposed with this type of street configuration, that the percentage of payment might be different. For those that are wondering, this Tiger Drive has at least 3 schools on it. It's not your typical neighborhood street.
Right.
So, but it sounds like this was all approved and set up, and then there was possibly some change in the language, because you can't help but question payment of that one leg without just being a residential street is not the same with 3 schools on it. Virgil, would you want to weigh in on just for future projects, just to clear that up?
Yeah, this one has 3 legs to it, and 2 of the legs are County Highway 30, and the 3rd leg is a city street. And like you said, there's a lot of schools located on it, but we have our agreement directly with the city, and then the city can determine if they want to work something out with the school district to recoup some of the costs or not. But our agreement's directly with the city, and they pay their leg.
Okay.
And, Mr. Chair, and you can probably speak to this is kind of the similar practice that we've done, because we had the roundabout, was about 4 years ago, maybe even longer, in Monticello, where we actually dropped the leg right into the parking lot at Eastview Elementary. And I don't believe that one was assessed to the school for the exit into the parking lot, because it was an intersection prior to that.
That's right. That was our first roundabout in Wright County, and that came on the heels of the interchange project at Highway 18 and 94, and that was kind of an add-on by the city, and that had kind of a unique set of circumstances to it, and we paid our legs, and the city paid the 3rd leg, and that other one's treated more as a driveway access. So it was split 2/3, 1/3.
Yep. Okay,
That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
all right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Virgil.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Dr. Matthijs. Again, just an honorary designation.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Morning.
A couple quick items. Park Commission, a lot of lengthy discussion in the minutes, but really only one action item for you to consider. Last year when we came into this COVID thing, people have heard about, I guess now, we set up a variety of different operational plans that were presented to the board for approval, from full closure all the way out to different things. Right now, we're operating at full capacity in the park system. All our campsites are open. Everything is full capacity. There are some gathering space limitations. So the only thing within that operating thing that we wanted to continue this year was the refund change for cancellations, and it would be based only on COVID-related issues. If we have to end up getting restricted again, or if somebody calls and can tell us that it's a COVID thing or a gathering thing, that would give them full refund minus the reservation fee. But it's a policy change for you guys, so a modification just for this year. Last year we did it too.
Will you need a motion for that then, or just
I
share
think
information?
so, since it's a policy change.
Yes.
And the
Mr.
boss
Chair, I'll
will-
make a motion to take action regarding the Park Commission's recommendation relating to shelter operation changes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Batch, second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussions?
It's worked well over the last year, so.
Yep. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Park Commission thought it was only fair to our customers
No, I agree.
for this year. Item 2 is requesting a donation to Wildlife Forever. Wildlife Forever is a nonprofit organization that does a lot of habitat work. This last year, you guys told me to go apply for a conservation partnership grant for prairie restoration at Collinwood Park. Somehow got hooked into Wildlife Forever. We put in a big projects list throughout the state with 90 different projects. Went after a larger conservation partnership as a grant as a whole for all 90 projects. Wildlife Forever took the initiative, wrote the grant. They're working with the contractors. With that, we have no catch match. We have a little in-kind labor match of doing some mid-contract mowing of that native restoration, so that's 30 acres. Basically, we have no catch match in that, and that's a $50,000 grant that they're giving us. A lot of coordination, a lot of contract development. And just out of, I guess, be a good partner, and hopefully that we can continue with them on these types of projects. I'm requesting that we donate them $1,000, and that would come out of the Collinwood Park Improvement Fund. The Collinwood Park Improvement Fund was set up in 2001 when we increased fees for camping. It's a camp, so $5 out of every camping occasion at that park goes into a special fund for improvement. It's not tax money, it's user fees on that campground, and I suggest that it comes out of that. Builds that relationship with Wildlife Forever so that when we do our next phase at Collinwood Park or we do additional habitat projects, we can leverage their support and their finances.
Okay. Anybody?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve a donation of $1,000 for Wildlife Forever.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chair, I think that's a fair return on our investment back to them. I mean, like you said, to maintain that relationship, and hopefully we'll be able to utilize those funds again on a future project down the road, so.
Yes, and Commissioner Vetch, we have already begun conversations with some direct hardwood seeding projects and some other projects with them, and they're receptive, so I want to keep that going. Not that every time we get a project, we'll do a $1,000 donation, but good.
$1,000 for 50,000 is pretty good return
Yeah.
on investment.
I'd buy lottery tickets at those odds.
I have a motion by Commissioner Betts, a second by Commissioner Hirschman. Is there any further discussions at all? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you very much. I'll let you get
Mark.
to the exciting stuff now.
Oh,
It's only
we
5
get to
today.
talk about drainage, county ditches.
He's nervous because his boss is in the room.
All right, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Morning, Matthew.
The first item I have is to review the Markboard Wetland Bank Plan Full Application, which is along County Ditch number 10. This project is a wetland banking project, and the spillway for the project would go within our right-of-way of County Ditch 10. So because of that, you have to review the plans and approve them. I think I do have John Smythe, the engineer who designed this plan for Dave Markboard, on the meeting, so he can talk about some of the technical aspects a little bit more. I just want to start and say that there was some changes to the spillway that myself and our engineer had recommended, and John had made those changes. The main change was changing the type of aggregate for the outlet structure, which used to be fieldstone, and now it's Class 2 riprap, which is an angular rock that should hold up a lot better when you get large flows going over that. So if John's on the phone and wants to talk about the project a little bit more, I'll let him take it over from here.
John, you with us?
I am with you. Hello, commissioners. Thanks for hearing this. Yeah, we are doing this project involves, under current conditions, currently there's a pattern tile system on this farm field that's pumping water into the ditch system. And there's what the proposal is to disable that tile system and restore the wetland, and also that will also restore the storage functions of that wetland. So rather than going into a tile system and pumping into the ditch right away, we will get some storage functions from this project. Dave will be getting some wetland banking credits that help to people that need credits for projects that impact wetlands, and that's what wetland banking projects are projects that do the replacement for the wetland in advance. So if you impact wetland, you can go to someone like Dave or another private banker and purchase that credit.
And how many acres are we referring to?
How many acres are being restored as part of this one?
Yes.
Let me see here. It's about, what is it? It's right around 30 acres.
Oh, good.
Let me just look it up real quick.
No, that's all right. That's what it's about.
Yeah, it's right around 30 plus acres. Plus, we also are restoring upland buffer prairie around that restored wetland, so that will provide some filtering of the water prior to reaching the wetland. So in addition to storage, it will also provide some benefits for water quality before it discharges to the ditch.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for John? Mr. Ditchin, no, this will benefit County Ditch 10.
Yes.
So this is an advantage to us then to help have this situation.
Correct. It's it's a different design for the pond that was put in there. That is more designed to reduce peak flows and have more water storage capacity. This will reduce peak flows to a certain rain event. In that case, the ditch would get too high and actually back up into the wetland banking area, but that's kind of unavoidable for where it is. It does provide a great water quality benefit to the ditch.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Wetter.
Is this going to be restricted only to Wright County people, buying the credits, or will it be open to the, what is it, region or district or?
Yeah, there's different regions. So, where you impact wetlands or drain or need mitigation, they usually want you to purchase those credits within that region if they're available. So people purchasing will likely be within that region.
Okay, within the region, not just Wright County.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Detchen, do you need approval of this plan, or is it just informational only?
You do need to approve their plan to move forward with it, since it is along the ditch right away. They are digging a spillway through our ditch bank at their own cost, and so it is within our ditch. So you need to review and approve these proposed plans.
Sure. So, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to accept the plan for the Markboard Wetland Bank on County Ditch 10. The plan.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Vett, second by Commissioner Wetter. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, John.
Thank you. It's very complex.
Thank you.
Item number 2.
Right, yeah, so review the proposal for the engineering report on Wright County Ditch number 31 submitted by Houston Engineering. So in early February, came to the board with the recommendations from the repair panel for County Ditch 31. At that point, you had asked me to get a quote from Houston Engineering to do an engineering report and subsequent repair report to actually fix the ditch. They have submitted that, and I believe I have Joe Lewis on the line from Houston Engineering to answer any questions.
Matthew, quick question. Where's ditch 31?
That's the one that comes out in Woodland Township out of Ruckles Lake. There was the issue with the DNR where we lowered a culvert, and there's what they consider pending litigation on that. And I can pull up a map too if that would make it easier.
That goes back a number of years now.
Yeah, it was before I was even here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Wetter.
How many feet or miles or whatever, I'm not sure how long, how big is this repair? How long? How far?
Yeah, so that's part of what this report would show. Joe would say which areas need to be repaired.
Oh, okay.
There might be areas that are at legal ditch grade.
Okay.
We could go through all that, so.
All right.
Are you on there this morning?
Yes, commissioners, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, the ditch system is about 4 miles in total, so there would be a portion of that, we'd figure out what exact length of that would be recommended for repair during our review of alternatives within inside of our report.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, will this also decide whether or not what we did was legal?
Yeah.
I won't comment on that, I guess. What I'll say is that, we've done the the upfront work, coordination with the DNR and SWCD. Yeah, and really what we're going to accomplish with this repair report is focusing on just evaluating different repair alternatives, just to do two things. One is to, determine what's actually needed to restore the drainage to the benefiting landowners. Then also what is the kind of least impactful from a natural resource standpoint, because that's what the DNR is going to look for inside of our report. They will certainly be looking at this to some degree, and I think we're just trying to go through the proper steps so that they know that we've done our due diligence prior to a repair, basically. So,
Mr. Chair?
and we've
Commissioner Retch.
So is it possible when you're putting together these bid packages that we can do them in like phases? Just because I feel like there's going to be some cost benefit analysis that's going to kind of show that this is going to be a tight, and that we may need to do this over like, hey, phase 1 is in the next 2 years, phase 2 is in years 3, 4, 5, 6. Just because I think doing the total repair may be financially unpalatable.
That's certainly an option. You could choose to prioritize the repair by segments, and we could give some recommendation relative.
I guess it would be an option that I'd want to have into it, just because if the bid packages come back pretty high, we're already kind of, at least in my inkling from what I've seen for other costs, that might be the case, so.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Ketchmark.
And that's a good philosophy to have. When I consider ditch 10 and 12 miles and $1 million, and this four miles, and I don't think it's going to get to that magnitude, but Matt can weigh in. But what could be a difference is if you have less landowners owning more land, you could be nicking less people for more.
Yep.
But the overall scale and scope, it doesn't sound like it's going to reach 7 figures like ditch 10. But it's something to monitor per project probably.
Yeah, and included in the 10 cost, that $1 million is culvert crossings and the township crossings, which is a substantial amount of that.
Right.
The cleaning and tree removal is usually a pretty set price. You can get a rough estimate for the area, and once I know kind of what areas that they're looking at, Joe and I will work at, kind of coming up with an engineer's estimate with recent sales.
I think for starters, we're up to 25,000 just for the report here so far.
Yep.
Without putting a shovel in the ground.
And you're going to be in probably another, I'd hate to even throw a number at it, but just knowing potentially what you guys are planning to do with it, you're going to be in the 6 figures, so.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yes.
as Matt mentioned, there will be a opinion of cost within inside of our report that we deliver, and I think from that point, the decision would be made without a phase it, and we can certainly offer some recommendations. But I think that first step is to get the number.
The biggest concern that I also have is with the WACA no loss and the legal quandary that may entail with that, and that could inflate the price exponentially. I just would hate to see us end up sticking $10,000 or $15,000 into that battle of it, because nobody's getting any benefit from that. I mean, and I'm just afraid that might end up being a concern.
Joe, could you go over a little bit the difference between a WACA exemption and a WACA no loss application?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, public drainage system repair has some exemptions related to it for related to the WACA. So we can have an impact or a minor impact and be exempt to certain wetlands where a private drainage system would not be exempt. So really our approach here is we've taken a preliminary look through the past work on this ditch system. So we've looked at these wetlands a little bit, and we think that we're going to be able to have a technical justification to claim that there's not an impact that requires any mitigation as a result of the repairs. So talking with Matt, we just went ahead and included it in this proposal to say, Houston will prepare a no loss application, submit that to the WACA LGU, so the SWCD, kind of get them to contest that basically, or to come up with a counter if they feel that the technical work was not valid, have them respond to it. And I think, we've done this type of thing in other counties, other watershed districts, and, this process, I think is a good approach to do the no loss application versus a more informal back and forth. So it's following the WACA process, and I think, I don't anticipate a large issue.
Joe, or Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Joe, does that exemption apply to all wetland classifications?
It would apply to, there's 3, 4, and 5 more your open water wetlands. Those aren't automatically exempt from public drainage system repair.
That's what I was thinking that they wouldn't be, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we've looked at the types that are there, and we feel that there's going to be a technical justification to claim that there's not an impact that is going to require mitigation. So a no loss application.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to move forward with the proposal for engineer's report with Houston Engineering for County Ditch 31.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Batch, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Is there any further discussions? Just one comment, that 24,865 is not to exceed number? Okay.
Yes.
Alrighty. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Joe.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Alrighty. Item number 3.
So we got a Wright County special for you today.
Yeah, I know. This was fun.
I thought we were trying to get less ditches.
Well, this one was never built. So I'll briefly go through just kind of describing the process of how a county ditch is made because it's relevant to this particular topic. When a ditch was established, the petitioners would come to the county, petition, and they would hire viewers, and viewers would go out and determine essentially who pays what on a county drainage system, and the viewers would provide an estimate to the landowners at that time of how much it's going to cost, so they know what they're kind of in before they move forward with the project. After that point, they would hire an engineer, bond, construct the drainage system, bring it to the county board, we would accept it, and then it would officially be a legal drainage system. And obviously I'm simplifying this, but in this one, in our review, it was actually the last ditch that I looked at. I started in the 30s and worked my way down because we were dealing with County Ditch 36 and 31 at the time. So I reviewed this somewhat recently, found that there is a viewer's report. Viewers were hired and were paid, so we had that on file, but that this County Ditch number 2 was never legally established. The remonstration against construction, the form that I have included there, it's handwritten, so I translated it the best I could.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I couldn't read it hardly.
And for what it says, like I said, it's the last item that's within this folder for County Ditch number 2. It appears that the landowners didn't realize that they would have to pay the cost to construct the drainage system. So there's a viewer's report, and I think that caused confusion. But it was never legally established or dug. So don't really have to do anything, don't have to abandon it since it was by law never established, but is one that we had some funds because we assess our county drainage systems across for some administrative fees. So it had a little over $200 that we'll need to take, and I'm assuming we would just spread it off over the rest of the ditch systems. So.
Everybody's getting $10.
Yeah, not that much.
Yeah, probably not. Mr. Chair, do you want action on that?
Yeah, I talked to Greg before.
Do you want action just to acknowledge the petition and refund the remaining balance on that? So, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to do so, is to accept the petition as a non-established county ditch and to refund any funds that are held within that ditch system.
So we're acknowledging that their petition was never,
We're acknowledging
So
the petition
ditch number 2.
was never established, yep.
okay.
I'll second that with a clarification, so it would be put back, not exactly refunded, it would just be put back into or kept in our drainage system, right, to be dispersed.
Yeah, we do it by length of drainage system.
Goes back to benefit landowners. Yeah.
Where was County Ditch number 2 at?
Just northwest of Delano there. So it's actually by another ditch that was established later, and they were, meant to drain the same wetland. So that's what kind of got me thinking maybe I should look into it a little bit more, because why would they construct 2 drainage systems?
And they never did do anything with it, okay. So I had a motion by Commissioner Vetch. Did I have a second?
Yes.
Commissioner Houston? All right. Is there any other discussions?
No, so was this one of the original ones in 1900? I mean, did we have some in the 1800s also, or?
Yeah, County Ditch number 1 would have been in like 1899, I believe.
Okay.
So it would have been the second ditch if it had
Right,
went
the
through.
second ditch, yep.
So what was the property like back then?
That I don't know.
Yeah, where's those aerial shots?
All right. Hearing no other discussions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Item 4, we want to have some public hearings.
Yeah. So the first public hearing is schedule a public hearing for the petition altering a public drainage ditch by trunk highway under Minnesota Statute 161.28 for a culvert crossing on County Ditch number 38. That's a part of the I-94 project.
38 or 39?
Or 39, I apologize, 39, So right now, we're just scheduling a hearing, and then at that point, I have to publish and send notice to landowners. I just gave you a placeholder date if that works or not for the hearing, but we'll have to actually have a public hearing where landowners can come in and review the plan submitted by MnDOT.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to schedule the public hearing for the, under statute for the, under I-94 for ditch 39.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any further discussions?
Just, Mr. Chair, do we have a date on that? I missed.
Yeah,
I know
sorry,
you
it's
had
in
one in there.
background justification. So I have April 27th at 10:30.
Did you, so you wanted to do this outside of the board meeting potentially then?
Yeah, I was hoping, depending on how the board goes, it would be after board's
Okay.
finished.
Okay. And then, all right. So do I have a motion and a second?
I had a motion, did it get seconded?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right, with Ketchmark.
Yeah.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
All right, the second item is for County Ditch number 24, another project that will be impacted by the I-94 repairs. I'm suggesting scheduling that for April 27th at 10:50 a.m.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any further discussions?
He's being very presumptuous, Mr. Chair, that nobody's going to, the comments are going to be within 20 minutes on the first one. It's not a controversial issue, so I don't think it will be either, but.
I don't know, we're going under a state highway or a federal highway. Never know. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
See, that wasn't too bad.
No, it wasn't.
You saw those 5 items and you got worried. But.
Thank Matthew.
Matt.
Items for consideration. Commissioner Ketchmark, Committee of the Whole meeting minutes.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So we have copious notes and minutes here, and it's a page and a half, but I'll condense it. So it was about the American Rescue Plan, and it was a federal fiscal recovery aid. $362 billion were given to the states and local government, 65 million or billion to counties. Wright County's proposed amount is $26.8 million. COVID relief and providing government services that may have been prohibited due to reduction in revenue. During the meeting, Commissioner Vetch suggested a portion go to broadband, suggesting grant application for cities to receive funds for water and sewer projects also. $8 to $10 million was decided for the broadband project. Mr. Chair suggested setting money aside for those that didn't get funding in the other rounds of relief. Mr. Chair also suggested additional funding for health and human services. Commissioner Wetter asked if more funds may be available for mental health, if that was a possibility. Commissioner Vetch suggested educational grant opportunities for older individuals returning to school. Health and Human Services requested funds for the pandemic. IT Director Fomby said body cameras will be implemented at some point, and if funds are available, it may be a good time to prepare on the groundwork level. In conclusion, there was recommendations to be discussed at a committee of the whole meeting at the end of April, and there were 7 items that will be considered. The amount of funds allocated to cities and townships, projected county reimbursement amount, approximate costs that public health has incurred, landlord assistance program, broadband information, body cameras, finally Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services, grant and training opportunities. That concludes the meeting. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Vetch.
As part of the recommendations, a summer intern to research, help, and administer, was that part of the recommendations, or?
It shows a
It
suggestion.
shows in the minutes, but it didn't show up in the recommendations.
No.
I just want to make sure that that was
In the
clear in there,
recommendation.
so.
Yeah, you suggested hiring a paid summer intern to help research, administer, and communicate these projects. And then under recommendation, we have the 7 recommendations.
So it's one that we can possibly discuss in the end of April.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, we didn't set this meeting, did we, or? I
No,
don't-
that's the next,
Later on the
it's like the
agenda.
third
Yeah.
item on coming up here is to
Right.
set that meeting date and time. I just wanted that to be a discussion piece because I think there's a lot of work that's going to come into this and having it,
Yeah.
we can use those grant funds to actually pay for that internship and
Yep.
we're offering educational opportunities. I want to make sure that was on the table.
Do you want to make a motion, Commissioner Ketchmark?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the committee of the whole minutes on the America Rescue Plan.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Vetch, technology meeting minutes.
All right, so last week or 2 weeks ago on Wednesday, the Technology Committee met, discussed the project updates. The camera project is off and running with Tyler Technologies. The administration event scheduler, this portion of this initiative will move forward once the contact manager project has been implemented. The contact manager, just so those of you know, the contact manager used to be the call center. I get confused in the name because they call it one thing and then they decide to call it something else because of the scope of the work. The training and testing is nearing the end on that one. The new government center, additional technologies are being assessed. So we're looking at the potential need for 800 megahertz upgrades, cameras, cellular boosters, and other conference needs as the building is starting to take shape. The EDMS project was touched on a little bit. Still having some progress moving forward with that within the recorder's office. The ERP, is the Enterprise Resource Planning project is in the user acceptance testing stage right now. They'll be making a go or no-go on the financials, the budgeting, financials, procurement, and human capital rollout. So they're going to decide if we're going to hold off or not here within the next few weeks. Then the solution architect updates, kind of an update on the Office 365 and the steering committee to help direct that project as well. One new project came forward to the group, which was the attorney's MNCIS, which is the court notice documentation. I think it's a replacement for the Damien system, I believe. And this was kind of a item that's kind of been on hold a little bit and trying to determine what direction the sheriff's office was going to go with potential changes to their Zerker software. But the committee was in favor of moving ahead with the attorney's MNCIS software at this time. Then we also just had some updates on a variety of the other projects that are in the portfolio having to do with the Sheriff's Dispatch Center information and the website redesign. But otherwise, the only recommendation was to move forward with the attorney's MNCIS program. Otherwise, the rest of it was all informational. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the recommendations for March 24th.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewson. Any discussions, any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Item B, Administrator Kelly, schedule committee of the whole to discuss American Rescue Plan. Did you have some dates?
Yeah, we had initially talked that last week of April. We already do have a committee of the whole on the 29th. I don't know that we want to load up that day. I was thinking perhaps we entertain moving out to that first week of May.
Yeah, following
That's right, yeah.
If that would be palatable to the group.
I'm sorry, what date did you say?
I was considering maybe we add it after the board meeting on the 4th of May.
Which would be fine.
What we're finding right now, or I feel, is everyone's waiting on substantial guidance to come out from the Treasury, and it's been slow to come.
Yeah.
I've seen a few webinars, and I know there's another one later in the week, and it's been very high level. I think we need to get more of the detailed information to bring that forward, and also bring those 7 or so items that were listed as the previous minutes, so.
Okay, my only concern would be if we decide to hire a intern, if we wait until that point, will that give us an issue?
No, since the meeting, we've been working up an admin on getting the proposal together on kind of a policy and how we'd go about it. Talked with a few other administrators, kind of how they run their programs, and some discussions, knowing we're having a little bit of staffing change in our office, who's going to supervise that. So we feel we'll have the legwork kind of done. You know, we wouldn't start the recruitment until after this meeting would take place, however, so.
I would say at this point, I'd rather just have a short discussion here. If everybody's in favor of it, give them the green light to go forward with that so they can get it. Because you'd want to be getting that person solicitation by the last week in April, because most of those internships, you want to get them started by mid-May to get the best utilization.
Yeah, well, not only that, but we'll have more applicants.
Yeah.
The sooner we start than if we wait too long, so we get a better opportunity to get the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
So,
True.
Does anybody have any concerns with hiring an intern and being paid through this program?
paid through that, yeah, through the American Relief Funds.
Right, it wouldn't affect our taxpayers. Yeah, I'd be in favor of that. I'd make a motion to go ahead and look for hiring an
intern to help us with this.
temporary intern.
And 3
I'll
months?
second it, so.
Three
I was
months?
I was thinking
4
90 days or whatever, yeah, that was kind of.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm sure there's some issues with HR and
Yep.
how we deal with it.
There's regulations around interns of
Okay.
how many days you can work. So.
All righty.
Mr. Chair, Administrator Kelly, does that apply the same way, the 67-day temporary, or is that a different?
It's spelled out specifically. There's a separate section for interns that you
Okay.
have to meet, so.
All right.
It's a little different than the 67-day temps.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Houston. Did I have a second? You did second. Second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any further discussions?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion then to set the committee of the whole for the American Rescue Act for May 4th. Is an hour and a half going to be enough time if we have it from at 10:30 to noon, or?
I would hope.
I would think we should be good within that range.
Well, we should have some specific guidance by then by the Treasury Department to help us.
Mr. Chair, I sat in on a webinar too, and they had said that the question was asked about the guidance. We want guidance on how to use it. And the answer from the so-called expert was that the guidance would come with the money that came at 60 days. And I kind of thought, really? How do you plan?
Well,
But that was the answer.
So,
well, some of it we know will be approved anyway.
So do we have a second on that? If it's not there, I'll second the committee of the whole at 10:30 on May 4th.
All right, motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Vetch for the meeting on May 4th at 10:30.
Sounds good.
Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Item number 2, Department Budget Review. The Sheriff's Office. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Yes, do we have a representative here? Good morning, Sheriff Derringer.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I just wanted to speak for a couple of minutes before I turn it over to Shauna. I have always appreciated the relationship that we as in the Sheriff's Office have had with the board. I understand that it takes a collaborative effort for us to maximize our effectiveness, right? So we have to work together. I understand that once the board sets my salary, sets my budget, I have a great deal of autonomy on how those dollars are spent. We meet often and try to do everything that we can to make sure that we're being effective and maximizing our fiscal responsibilities. So just so you know that those conversations are always ongoing. But in all reality, I understand that I have a great deal of autonomy with my budget, but as most of the board would probably appreciate, last year when we have some unforeseen things come up, I'm the first one to jump on the computer or pick up the phone and give you guys the heads up. Obviously, we have a couple of big projects that could really impact the county with our records management system, and Commissioner Ketchmark mentioned the body cameras. I think that those are probably going to happen sooner than later, and it's not necessarily it's for the benefit of everyone, but certainly the 160 deputies that we have are going to appreciate it as litigation continues to abound across this state with even criminal charges substantially. So I just wanted to publicly thank the board for our collaborative effort that we've had to this point. I have very much appreciated the relationship. It takes a team effort to get through some of these things. So I just wanted to recognize the board and thank you very much for your ability to fund me those ideas, and I will continue to keep the board apprised the best that I can with future expenditures and current things. I think last summer was probably a prelude to what we're going to see this summer again with, you got the Line 3 pipeline affecting the Northern Light Sheriffs in 13 counties in northern Minnesota, and we've got the trial going on that we're monitoring closely for potential activity in the metro area, which has been ongoing, but so far they've been able to handle it on their own, but I don't know if that'll continue or not, but we're continuing to monitor that. So I'm going to introduce my office administrator, Shauna Ottman. She will be able to answer any questions specifically.
Sheriff Derringer?
Mr. Chair?
Just a moment. One quick question regarding the updated software. Have you guys started reviewing some of those yet, or started putting that out together?
Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, we have our RFIs are out. They are due at the end of the month. So far, we have had 5 companies, at least one which has no Minnesota presence, express interest in having additional conversations with us.
Are we using the consultant again on this one?
We are not. We actually, at this point, have reused, modified, and improved the information that we had from last time. As you know, we started conversations with Zerker in 2013. And one of the wonderful things about law enforcement is we're not overly inventive in the new types of technology and those kind of things we need, unless you get on the far side of like the body scanners and vest alerts and those kind of things, and we're not looking at that. So the basic RMS systems are pretty.
Okay, and then we're gonna write in the contract guarantee that they have to stay around for 15 years, they can't sell out.
Mr. Chair, that would warm my heart completely. I cannot tell you what a large project it's going to be, and coming 5 years sooner than we were expecting to have to do it.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Ketchmark, I'm sorry.
I just want to talk to the sheriff for a minute before he sits down. Thanks for coming in, and just briefly, I like to have the direct contact with the office heads and department heads that come in for budget review, so I'll just go over the same things because I don't know how many of these you've been to. But well, first question is, how are things at the sheriff's office since I left?
That's a loaded question, Commissioner.
Sorry, I didn't send that one ahead of time, but I thought of it later.
You know, obviously, they don't write a playbook for my job. The first couple of years has been, you know, really remarkable. There's a lot of new things from the pandemic to lots of things going on in our community. And I'm reminded every day that I'm surrounded by an amazing, strong team, and we continue to thrive, and we continue to, I think, serve our communities very well. So we're down 1 staff. I just received another resignation last night, a deputy that, well, he was, after a 30-year career in the southern United States, Indiana, I believe, he moved up in this direction to get closer to his children, and his children moved back down south a couple of winters in. And so he figured that there was no sense in sticking around for another winter himself, so actually they found another home about just a couple of blocks from his previous home. So we'll wish him well as he returns to a warmer climate and back in Indiana. But outside of that, so then we would be 2 people down. So we're really maintaining really well. We're effective in our recruitment process so far. We just had 6 deputies. I think I mentioned this at a previous board meeting, maybe not. I haven't been here for a while, but we had 6 start at the same time, same day, and it was the first time that we were able to ever do this. We kind of ran a mini academy for 2 weeks. And it was interesting. So we got over 30 years of combined experience with those 6 applicants. 4 of them had previous law enforcement experience. And what was really cool is to see how they really helped in the training curriculum for those first 2 weeks, helping the couple that had not ever been in the streets before. And what we've found is, you know, they've really hit the ground running, and pretty excited to see that. So we were able to attract that kind of experience to some of our new hires. So to answer your question, it's going very well. Appreciate it.
I'm surprised. I was surprised to see you only asked for 1 person to replace me, but I guess it's working. It's working out for you. But again, so it's budget review. This started in January. 132 pages of stuff to look over, and inviting office heads, department heads, 1 or 2 per week, and asking a few questions. Not that anyone did anything wrong necessarily, but just to get a little explanation, a little bit, and move forward from there. So appreciate you coming in and bringing the numbers expert in, or support staff, and we corresponded by email when you asked for more specific info. Some people call, some stop, some email, some just say, hey, I carry a budget around my pocket, I'm ready to discuss it anytime, whatever. But you got some things to work with, so I'll try and stick to the order that I gave. Sometimes papers get shuffled, but thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so you got the list of, and the 132 pages maybe for reference? Or?
Yes, I did. I got a list of 6 topics that you want to discuss. I crafted some talking points that I think are of public interest because we had no specific questions from you inside those 6 items. So I'm not 100% sure if I prepared what you want.
No, and I didn't know until I get started to see what direction it goes. But to start with, page 35, last item, full-time personnel, boat and water. It's 75% over budget. It says was budgeted $20,000. What was spent was $35,075.01. So the question was a 75% over budget. What contributed to that?
So that boat and water line item is a tracking line item just for grants. So the person associated with the boat and water line, their full-time, their 2,080 hours is between our full-time personnel line item and that boat and water personnel line item. Things like weather, early ice out, late ice out, water recoveries. As you know, those are all statutorily mandated things that we are required as a sheriff's office to complete. So that person's payroll sits between those 2 lines. It's actually to our advantage to what we overspend on the boat and water line, we underspend in full-time personnel because the 2,080 is accounted for as a whole. So it's to our advantage to have more time inside boat and water because we are statutorily required to provide those services. It will help increase our DNR grant funding, which has increased every year since 2017.
Is that all grant money then, the $35,000 that was spent?
The majority of our boat and water activity is covered by grant money. I won't tell you 100% because I'm not.
Oh, that's fine, but just so I know more.
The vast majority of boat and water activity is covered by grants.
Okay. Anything else to add on that?
No, sir.
Okay. Then page 36, there was meals taxable, and it was 169% over budget. What was budgeted is $500. What was spent was $1,347.15. And I know from 2020 there was a lot of emails that went out that said, so-and-so brought treats, so-and-so brought, a lot of things were given to the deputies, so I was wondering what did I miss in a meal at the sheriff's office?
Well, I can't advise on what you missed as far as what was delivered to our office. In the 2019 budget talks, there was talk of a process change of taking all meals, parking, those kind of things associated with training and moving that inside the training budgets so that we had one full picture. So we reduced our meals line with the thought process of that process change through the discussion with the auditor's office, right? And because the meals associated with training are taxable, but we were going to move that all to being attributed to training. Once the budget finally went through, the process didn't change. So we budgeted for, like, if you have a detective, let's say, who has to go up north and needs to eat meals because they're, eyeballs deep in an investigation or something, that's that $500 amount. Obviously, for outside training, when non-COVID times, when we have significant outside training, the meals that are associated with employee expense reimbursements, we've had about $2,000. So if you look back in 2019 to 2020, you see where we cut that budget money and moved it into the training line, and then the process never changed.
Can you tell if that was an in-service training where deputies were at a training at one of our facilities and benefited from this, or out of county because it's such a high amount over the 500? And there'd be a lot of detectives traveling here and there to add up to $1,300 in meals.
No, sir, that's all deputies who went for outside training or had, BCA still had training, or if there were meetings, and they're generally done through payroll expense reimbursements when an employee turns in their expense reimbursement form and their lunch receipt or their dinner receipt. So it's not just outside, because the process didn't change, it's not just what it was intended to be as budgeted.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I want just some insight to the county policy, because the county policy on meals is if you're outside the county, that they'd be eligible for meal reimbursement. So if we did a job sharing in Hennepin or Stearns County and a deputy is there, they would, for a shift, they would then be entitled for meal reimbursement because they're doing work for the county outside of the county. That's what the county policy is for that. So,
Mr. Chair, I continue?
yeah, I just want to make sure that you understand, that we just want to put that in light to.
No,
what the
and
policy is.
that brings up a question, because looking at these past reports, we saw itemized mileage and meal fees with a name. John Jones, training meals, $50 reimbursement. And this was what I was wondering, is if there was a group event or package that contributed to the majority, because that's the way it's listed. It's not itemized that Detective so-and-so went to BCA in a cumulative figure then at the end. You understand what I'm asking?
I think you're talking about the activity report, and the overall activity report would show the payroll entries on it individually.
Okay.
It is not best practice to ever put an employee's name on a payroll report or on an activity report. Our standard practice is to utilize initials. Or if there is a multiple person training, but generally your meals is like, if I think that you're trying to get, like, did we have a big event at the office? Is that what you're after?
Right, well, someplace, just to account for the
That's
figure.
not in that line. No.
Okay, that's what I'm wondering, because some of these reports like disbursement, I am seeing people's first name and last name. We all see it from week to week.
Well,
And
yeah,
it's a
that's-
public document that everybody can see. So that's all I'm asking. But, okay, thank you. Then operating supplies on that same page were 40% over budget. 94,000 was budgeted, 131,343 and 19 cents was spent on operating supplies. And that, just kind of vague, so I was wondering what that included.
So operating supplies for the sheriff's office includes everything from your 180-degree spotlight light bulb, because it's a bulb and it's disposable, to our paper, pens, ammunition, all of the added large gathering equipment, part of the conversations we had with the board last year through the events of May that sparked the events down in the metro and up in St. Cloud. We were having conversations back and forth with the board at that time. There was a significant amount of response that we needed to plan for, to be mindful of, and make sure that we were ready here within Wright County, but also to offer aid. And so always in times of crisis, there are people who will benefit from that, and people who supply tactical gear in a law enforcement negative environment like right now. There's significant price increases on things. We had also, and you'll see it again when my budget comes out and we have our budget meeting, we had conversations with the board over a few years to implement the smartphones. And this year we made the largest pull. So we had about $3,000 in smartphone cases and screen protectors that are a one-time purchase.
Did it also include the masks this year too?
Yeah, so I mean, you have the pandemic, you have the responses, all of those things.
Additional cleaning materials and that sort of
Yep.
stuff?
Maybe a point of interest, there's about $2,500 of supplies, different types of things to get the training center set up functional so that we can hold training out there.
So you said if like gas masks and batons and ammunition would all be lumped into that?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's why I'm asking, because operating expenses is broad.
It's super big, yep.
All right, thank you. Next one, B&W operating supplies, trans to 6416. It's 223% over the budget, which was $16,500. $53,307.40 was spent.
So if you look at the corresponding revenue line for the DNR revenue, February 25th of 2020, the board approved us accepting a grant that my team had written for $48,310 to purchase a Boston Whaler. So the Boston Whaler is tracked inside that boat and water line because, again, that's all grant reporting purposes, but the revenue is up top in the revenue section. So the boat came in, I want to like $5 or $10 under the 48,310, but that's the difference there. If you take the boat out, we're actually under budget in that line.
Okay, thank you. Page 41, toward the bottom, professional services, 90% over budget. Budget item or amount was $30,000. Amount spent $57,000, $57,009.10. Professional services.
Yes. So the 250 professional services line, so the jail professional services line is almost exclusively mandated services. I will tell you that this will be another budget conversation. Last year we had just under $33,000 in prisoner guarding costs that we are required to pay. So what that means is we had an inmate have a medical issue, need to be transported, stay at a hospital, and we are required to provide security for that person while they're there. We work with different ways to try to reduce and mitigate those expenses, including utilizing deputies when available for that. However, last year, that's almost $33,000. The other costs that you're going to see in there, that's our hiring costs, so our psychological exams, our credit reports, all the background check kind of stuff, and interpreter services are in that line. We have to provide interpreters when they're needed. We have no control over that expense. So last year, that line item so the year before, so when we're talking about 2019, the line item was over by 2,000. The 3 years prior to that, this line item was under budget, and we actually ended up cutting it because it had been under budget for so long. These are things outside of our control. We're required to respond and pay for them.
Okay, thank you. The page 3, it was a disbursement by warrant number, complete self-defense Hutch for $1,400, 7-hour seminar. Do you know who that was for?
It was for 18 correction officers.
Okay. And so my question with that was, when we've got a tactical training center and a lot of instructors that teach self-defense and use of force, wasn't there in-house expertise per se, or what was the difference that sent them to Hutchinson for that type of training?
That's a great question, Commissioner. Honestly, I can't 100% tell you that I'm prepared to answer why this company in Hutch is better than our own in-house. Not everything can be brought in-house yet. We are working with plans, working with getting there. But when you look at this overall invoice, you're talking $11 per hour per person for individualized instruction. So expense-wise, not out of line. I do know as the training center continues to develop, we are moving in-house. We have some trainers who won't come here, right? There's still some people who think that we are too far out. That was our explanation from FBI LEDA, which, you know, given that it's kind of the FBI building, we thought that might be a slam dunk, and that's a fantastic training. But that the information, like the why behind your question, that I don't have. I will have to get that for you.
And I appreciate that, because as I understand it, it was our corrections staff that got trained by somebody else, which nothing prevented necessarily our in-house people from training them. I mean, that COVID scared to come out here or whatever, that doesn't apply to our employees and our trainers. You're talking about other folks that would maybe want to come here for training.
Well, and just with that, our in-house trainers aren't going to be experts in everything, right? So sometimes bringing in that outside training to see if that has value is like you test it out and see how it goes. But I can certainly ask, I guess, for a more detailed explanation as to why. I don't know that you're going to get the answer. I guess I don't know what you're looking for.
Well, just what is the specialty of that training versus
Okay.
here? We got people that teach handcuffing, pepper spraying, tasing, batons, you know, all these different maneuvers and tactics, and I'm just wondering what they have that we don't have. That's it. For a commute to Hutchinson. Okay? All right, thank you.
Commissioner Ketchmark?
Yes,
You know, we have another meeting at 10:30.
I got two things and it should be pretty short.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. As I was sorting through my stack of disbursements late yesterday and last night, I came across assessment for $3,354, and there was a lot of acronyms and initials. And it was through True North Consulting Group. And under special notes regarding expenses incurred, it's E-911 as per SA. And I don't know if it's preparing a dispatch center for future or if it's evaluating potential employees for a hiring process. Do you have some knowledge of that?
So our True North, the majority of our True North bills or invoices we receive get paid out of the E911 funds, so not out of the 201. True North has several contracts with us, both to create the new dispatch center and get that up and operational, and they do servicing on our existing equipment. I can't, off the top of my head, tell you specifically what bill that is, whether it's a backup dispatch center or a current dispatch center, but I can tell you it's not about evaluating employees.
Okay, and I got it late last night because I had a stack of stuff. Last thing, I looked at a disbursement for Wright Hennepin Electric, and one got my eye here is $21.66.80, and it's training, it's called. And so I thought, okay, there was some training for power lines and crashes and how to deal with that. But as I dug further into it, it's the electric bill for the Tactical Training Center at $2,166.80. So my point with that is that we've seen, and this has been brought up, the way the Tactical Center is listed and named. And it was brought up under a propane expense in the past. And another board member suggested that that expense was attached to the Parks Department. So we've seen this facility called a TTC, called Training, and called Tactical Training Center. Just for simplicity's sake and consistency, could we maybe just call it TTC? Because I understand there's a limited amount of characters that you can use on these lines. So if that could be a consideration under the little box with the explanation, if maybe we could tighten that up with the name. Because that's what it looked like in this particular report.
So the invoices that you see for electric and garbage, those kind of services, those actually get paid out of Alan's office. They don't come through the sheriff's office or through my staff. And since I don't know what invoice you're looking at, I can't tell you if it's one that we processed or they processed.
Okay, I'll talk to Alan too, but just for the future, if you have some run through, could we maybe agree on TTC for, I mean, the world's all about acronyms now.
The world is definitely about acronyms. I don't know that we lovingly refer to it as tactical just because of the political environment.
Oh, well, just could we have a consistent term? We got 3 of them now.
We will try to come up with consistency as it relates to the training center.
Yeah, that'd be probably the best term is training center, because that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But you're seeing that, we're seeing the different things and, okay, what is that? And I thought that it was training. Okay, here's the amount, staff, power lines, whatever. But that's all I had. We got something else here, but thank you.
We got a few things to go through yet before we get to our next meeting.
I'd just like to encourage anytime members of the board, well, I said I have a great deal of autonomy with my budget, I would encourage any of these questions. Feel free to reach out to myself or Shauna Ottman anytime you have questions, and we can get you the answers you're looking for.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shauna.
Okay.
And actually, I do want to, we're short of time, I wanted to find out how the jail was doing too with, and that sort of stuff, but because of lack of time, we'll bring it up, maybe have it at another time, just a little bit of synopsis on how things are going there. Item 3, letter to legislators regarding access to driver and vehicle testing services. Has everybody had a chance to look at that? Does anybody have any comments on it?
I think it's great. We need to keep working on this issue.
All right, do we need a motion?
I have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
The last one, Senate File 276 and House File 391 for third-party testing. If I remember right, there was some squabbles about, those people that did that testing were often actually, they had their private license, or they had their private training, and then they would go off and then work in the registrar's office, and then they would show possibility of them showing preference to passing those
There is some conflict of
people.
interest.
So that's why I was wondering whether we really wanted to have that
Mr. Chair,
deal on there or not.
Mr.
that
Chair.
last one.
When I'll explain to it. So,
Yep.
those two pieces of legislation, they've, in the last two sessions, have had little movement because the House and the Governor's Office is not, open to are not very open to the idea of privatizing state testing because of the conflict of interest, which we view as also, I shouldn't say we, but I view the same type of concerns as well. We look at supporting a change that the Senate has and the House realizes that there needs to be change. We find that our piece of legislation on delegating authority is kind of a strong compromise. So we want to kind of, this letter is, we want to keep the Senate idea out there that somebody needs to, both bodies have to come to finding a change, and we really feel that our piece of legislation of delegating authority will have a good chance in conference committee as omnibus bills are taking effect right now. And that's the reason we wanted to get both sides, we wanted to get the whole delegation aware of what's out there for legislations in terms of what's in the Senate and what's in the House. So I think your concerns are valid.
I just thought that last group should maybe be in there because I would be,
We just wanted to give them the full scope of what's out there. I think if we we could take that out if you wanted to, just taking out the four examples of Senate File 1656 and 1141.
Or we don't agree with that one?
Well, I guess I would say, 1656 and 1141, which would be allowed through the ours, we'd want to remove or Senate File. I could take and just go period through their deputy registers, period, and remove or Senate File 276 and House File 391, which would privatize third-party testing. That's simple, easy change, and Mary, I think what you're asking is totally fair to remove that. We just put it in there. I know I put it in there with the thought of wanting to educate people the full scope of the issue. But more to the fact that we want this letter to go out to the full delegation is because I'm hoping to have more conversations with DVS and having some conversations about our testing facility in Buffalo and when or if it is ever going to open. And we need to get some hard and fast dates and times and hopefully get them on paper committing to operations in Wright County.
From my understanding is that the way it sounds is that counties are going to be able to do written tests in the future. That was one of the things that has been approved.
Well, they've delegated to online testing. So you can go online and take your permit test and then you can take that into Buffalo or any licensing center and get your permit.
Yeah, but it's questionable whether or not they're going to continue but I know that before they went with the online, they did allow counties to also hold the testing.
But
the written test.
Written test. Now, I will say that that's not all written test. It's just a permitting test.
Right.
If you had a DWI and so forth, you wouldn't be able to. You'd be still stuck going to a Plymouth or a St. Cloud testing facility.
Oh, yeah.
So there is when you went down, I think we're up to 20 now, from 93 to 20 centers statewide.
It's a huge concern for commercial drivers, and where do they go? And that's their livelihood. And we need to, it's bad enough for the 16-year-olds that have to drive to Brainerd or Rochester or wherever they have to go, but for our commercial drivers, this is critical.
All right,
So with that change, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this letter to send it to the delegation. I would ask that staff sends this letter out electronically, just because a number of the legislators are not in their office and they get their mail very intermittently. So I'd like it to go out electronically if at all possible.
So are you going to approve both? Is your motion including both of those?
It's with the removal of Senate File 276 and 391.
Okay, you
the
will
third party.
remove that?
That's what
Okay.
the editing, that last 10 words.
And at
Okay,
deputy registrar.
okay, if that's removed, then I would be for it.
I'll second
You're
that.
seconding it?
I will second it with that removal.
All right, so motion by Commissioner Vance, second by Commissioner Witter. Is there any other discussions on it? And as far as sending it out, do you want, I would recommend I believe we have all 5 commissioners digitalized signatures, so put
Yes.
those all on there.
If you're okay with that method, we'll do that and send it out
I
digitally.
would prefer to have all 5 signatures on there. All right.
Mail.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign, motion carries unanimous. Okay, appoint 2 county commissioners to serve on the dental clinic steering committee. I would like to be one of those since I'm on the public health task force, which is one of the groups, but that's been
Mr.
working
Chair?
with all this. Yes?
Mr. Chair, what's the difference between this committee and the building committee?
This is just the steering committee for helping, we got a letter stating what this is all about, the steering committee. It's to help decide who we're going to be dealing with the architects and that sort of stuff.
Well, I just thought that the building committee people would be that then.
No, this
I
is
don't
kind of
know.
a separate
I
deal.
just assumed that. And
There's a steering committee, there's a little bit information regarding that letter, but is there anybody else that wants to be on this?
I mean, I'm open, it's just, for some reason, I've got a lot of,
Commissioner Ketchmark, you're kind of against this whole thing. You want to be on it and learn more about it?
I'll wait for a motion and then I will tell you what I'm convinced or not convinced.
I'm not, I'm looking for a second person to be on it.
No, I'm really not interested.
I would if.
Commissioner Wetter? All right.
Okay.
So myself and Commissioner Wetter will be the 2 county commissioners to serve on the dental clinic steering committee.
I will make that motion, Mr. Chair.
I gotta go next month.
All right.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Houston. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Vetch. Further discussion, Commissioner Ketchmark?
I'll just say that I'm just not convinced yet that it's a good business deal for Wright County. That's all.
Okay. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Topics to discuss for our next week workshop meeting, Great River Regional Library presentation, American Rescue Plan update. Is there anything else? I would like, actually, if this is all we've got scheduled, do you have some other?
No, Mr. Chair, it seemed like kind of a light, comparatively. We've had some pretty long ones recently, so these were the 2. Hoping we can have some updates for the update about the rescue plan. Just thought I'd keep the discussion going because we'll have a little bit of time between the committee of the whole we set. So if there's other topics, it'd be great to name them now and we'll put them on the agenda, so.
Okay, since it's kind of light, Sheriff Derringer, would, next week, Tuesday, would you guys have an opportunity to just to give us a highlight on how things are going with the jail and renters and what you guys have been seeing as far as concerns and issues and that sort of stuff?
I'd like to hear about, Mr. Chair, I'd like to hear more about the training center.
Available next week.
So discussions then, just to fill us in on the how the jail things are going and training center.
Would love to.
Thank you. Administrator Kelly? Okay. Because of timing, we will forego the advisory committee's advisory board updates unless somebody has something that's extremely urgent. Administrator Kelly, do you have anything that is necessary?
I don't, just recalling back to the petitioned on item for consideration C.
Oh, yeah, the
About,
P and Z
public
planning.
Oh, I'm sorry,
discussion.
forgot about that,
Yeah.
yeah. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a little bit time sensitive, so I'm glad we get a chance to go over it. But it started at a meeting last week when the solar ordinance public hearing notice got out to the townships, and they are asking if they can come live to that. And then we talked about a potential workshop for planning and zoning questions with the townships, and township supervisor said, well, can we come live to it? If we can, we will. If we can't, we won't. And they bring up the procedure-wise about the number of people that are allowed in a boardroom on a Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. versus 1 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon for the planning commission. And you can see who comes and goes from the board. We got a bird's eye view here every week. Planning commission's a little different. They allow 2 people in at a time, 2 in the room. They sit here, typically they're the applicants, the rest sit in the hallway. And I talked to Mr. Kelly, I talked to Mr. Riley last week about it, and I think it's time, a year into it, that we get a little more consistent one way or the other. I'm on this board, I'm also on the planning commission, so I get it from both sides. I'd like to open up for discussion here, but I don't see a reason why we can't open it up more for planning and have an overflow room. We have 5 empty courtrooms and a training room back here. With technology, we could have some portable things here if we have an influx. We don't know who's going to show up on Tuesday morning here on a 2.5-page, 3-page agenda. A planning commission meeting's maybe got 10 items. I don't know that you're going to get the amount of crowd or the variety unless you got public hearing. But this is our last chance to talk about it before that April 15th solar public hearing. Thank you.
Chair, I support Commissioner Ketchmark in opening the, we've exhausted the online aspect of it. I mean, keeping it as an option still for a while, I'm okay with it, but I think there's plenty of ability for us to call applicants in and those that are interested on that topic on a base-by-base, on agenda-by-agenda item. We shouldn't be telling people that for public hearings that they can't come in to comment anymore. I think if they want to do it in person because they don't feel comfortable online, they should have the ability to do so.
Yeah, I have no problem with that either. I mean,
I know.
as long as we don't overload inside here, that's my biggest concern. Yes, absolutely, Mr. O'Reilly. Mr. O'Reilly is our planning and zoning.
So the biggest difficulty with this COVID meeting issue is we run a hybrid meeting. It isn't just one or the other on Teams or everybody can come in. So we still need to provide the Teams platform. We have 7 planning commission members that I don't think are all comfortable yet sitting up there. We have staff people. We limit it to 2 applicants. And then the public has an opportunity through the Teams platform. We have 10 agenda items. In a normal meeting, 2 or 3 of them would exceed the number of chairs in here from the public. And we don't have a system for them to cycle through. Those 36, 45 people come in here at 7 o'clock, in this case 1 in the afternoon, and sit here for a 3 or 4 hour meeting. Our resources are exhausted in being able to figure out alternative technology, rooms, enforcement, and control. So we would need assistance if we're going to talk about the public can come in, but it's going to be in different settings than just this room.
Mr. Chair, I think we're overcomplicating this. We can simply take a county computer, set it right there, and they log that computer as the testimony computer in. They stand up there, and everybody else is on team, and they can give their little public testimony via where you're standing with the computer facing them, with the camera talking to them. Everybody else, the planning commission, whether in the room or whether they're online, they'll be able to hear it. And you basically, anybody that wants to come in, you just do everything agenda item by agenda item. Every agenda item, you wait in the hallway till your agenda item comes in. Anybody that wants to talk on that item, everybody else can mingle all of these other areas, and you just basically take a break in between agenda items to call them in.
And we do that on applicants, commissioners. We have chairs set up out there and up here, and we'll have 8, 10, 12 applicants sitting out there. So I'm
But
fine.
we're not just I'm not, we allow just applicants, and I don't want us to just allow applicants anymore.
No, I got that. I'm just giving you the setting now. So we already make our best efforts at controlling that because there's only so much room. So I'm good, but we have.
You need extra help in order to do
Well,
that.
Frank will absolutely help out, Mr. Chair. I think
Well,
Frank can easily accomplish this. I don't think we need to make it
Or
more
it's on
complicated.
a hope it works out basis, that if for whatever reason, a dozen people do show up and nobody's accounted for capacity or alternative rooms, that's not being accounted for.
We're already at, what, almost, with the amount of people that are vaccinated, we're gonna be going to normal here relatively soon. If I had my way, I would be doing it right now. So I think, we're not gonna make this overly complicated. It's just, make it happen, is my perspective.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Ketchmark.
And I agree with Sean. Sean should be in charge of planning and zoning, and IT should get a notice that says, hey, we need this, we could use this, and they take over from there to have the backup room if need be. But I agree that you should be concentrating on your agenda and all those things and not stretching out to other areas. But that's what IT folks do, get the technology here and have a backup room, 5 empty courtrooms to use, and a training room back here.
Well, the other option would be to go back to twice a month, planning and zoning meetings,
They are.
which would eliminate,
Well, we do that. We haven't cut down in meetings.
oh, you do still have the 2 a month? Okay,
We haven't cut down in,
okay. The other option would be to maybe look at that facility out at the Justice Center. I don't know how much that's being utilized yet, because that room is a lot
Big.
bigger. So that may be something else to look at as an option. So
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, trust me, I did not ask for this. It is not a good environment for holding our public hearings. But this has fallen on our office to figure out how to make this work. When you say there's a they to find other rooms, that's me. IT's done their best. Lee can only do so much. He's running around doing his other meetings. There's formal systems for scheduling these rooms. There's getting technology. Well, we can't just run up to the new building, right? Is that ready to go?
the Justice Center?
Justice Center.
Yeah, that's been operational.
Right, I mean,
That was just a thought. I don't know how well that would work. I don't know, is one of the courtrooms larger than this room?
I mean, I think you have options, and we did explore when we had the Truth and Taxation meeting back in December, not knowing how many people would show up. We would set it up with IT as being an overflow room in 120, so, I mean, we could leverage 120, we could look at one of the vacated court spaces, or I guess I'd have to consult a little bit with IT here, but I think we could do a combination thereof, perhaps. You know.
All right, so the board's opinion is to try and start allowing public insight here for each agenda item, and we'll leave it up to you and your staff and IT to figure out a way to do that.
Okay.
Sound fair?
Yep.
just one question. We've already got the April 15th meeting notified as our normal procedures. I guess if people show up, they're welcome to come in.
Yeah, I think that's
But
about
we've
really all you
already-
can do.
We've
Yeah,
already done that.
we needed to iron something out because that is the next big date that we're potentially gonna have walk-ins, drive-ups, the whole thing. So we just needed to, I think, iron it out now.
But we just need to make sure that we don't exceed what the state level requires us with the mask mandates and separation and that sort of stuff. So we have to follow within those
Yeah,
guidelines.
so that's the $20,000 question. That's why we've done crowd control, and
Yep.
Yep.
if there isn't someone doing crowd control, what happens, happens.
Yeah, I would say as far as crowd control, maybe one of the maintenance personnel could kind of help with something to that effect or something.
That's fine, we'll take help.
I'm sure that you guys will be able to figure it out. I have faith in you. All right?
All right,
Thanks, Sean.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean. Appreciate it. Lee, anything else? I know we're really late for our,
No, we
Good
dismissed the leadership team till 11, so
pardon?
they logged off till 11. We moved the meeting back, no one
Oh,
around
okay.
here, so.
Well, our meeting's at 11 now?
Yep. And that's all on Teams, right?
Correct.
All right.
All right, hearing nothing else going before the board, we are adjourned at 10:49.